Okay, welcome. I'm Connie Ashburn, National Field Development Director with Pink Zebra, of course, and with me is
Jessica Carter.
so glad you're here, Jessica. We are re-recording something that we shared on Monday on the All Consultants Facebook page that I really felt was important for you all to hear, to learn from Jessica and what she's been doing. And unfortunately, we had a few technical difficulties on Monday, so here we are again. So I am going to just tell you that Jessica Carter, you're from Texas, of course. You're going to hear that little accent you have. She was #2 in Blend Bash sales at our reunion in 2019. So her sales, at the point we did this training on Monday, you were at 5,200, something like that for the month of August. I'm not sure where you're going to settle out, but not that it matters, but the whole point is most of your sales that you do come from Blend Bashes, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and that was true all of this past year when you were #2 in Blend Bash sales. So obviously that's kind of your main focus. So I just want to welcome you and certainly excited about you sharing some of the things that have really worked for you and to help you increase your averages and obviously have more successful Blend Bashes. So I first want you to share about your goal, setting your goal in terms of going into the party itself.
So I think one of the most important things whenever you're going into your party is to know your goal. So when you walk away from your party, do you need 2 bookings? Do you need 3? We all have different goals and things that we're aiming for. So with this trip coming up, I always like to start out and really hit that strong. That way in those final months of the trip, you're not scrambling to get things. So really build up some cushion in our main selling season, which is the next few months. And so if you're looking at a blank calendar, you're going to have a different goal than someone who has 2 bookings on their calendar. And so what I did want to share is that at the beginning of the month, I had two parties on the books the first week of August, and now I'm booking all the way into October. So I was able to take my month from in August. My average blend bashes are $700 to $900. So if I would have just stayed there and not booked any future business, any future parties from those parties, I would be looking at, $1,400 to $1,800 in sales for the whole month. And here we are at the end of the month, I was able to capitalize. And actually I ended up booking about mid-month. I booked from that first party. I booked one of my best blend bashes I've ever had. It was $1,200 or $1,300. So, a booking from that first week. So if you are looking at a blank calendar, you can turn it around with 1 or 2 blend bashes and really just set yourself up for a completely different month. Because, as I just shared, I was looking at, not even $2,000 in sales at the beginning of the month to now. So, know your goal. When you walk into a party, what is your goal? Or if you're going to pick up the phone and make some phone calls and get some bookings, what is your goal? Because that's definitely where you need to start.
So I think the key there is the fact that you had the beginning of the month, those 2 parties, and like you said, you could have just rested on that and been done. And instead, those 2 parties turned into an additional 3,000 or more in sales because you booked parties from those parties. So if you're ever feeling like your calendar is not where it needs to be, just know that 1 or 2 parties can completely change your momentum. So no question. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is what I like to call touch points. And these are really points where you directly interact with your host or your consumer through the party experience itself. So we're going to touch on 5 different touch points today. And it's basically the host before going to the party. So that's certainly some of your host coaching that you're doing. The opening at the party itself, while the guests are blending, the catalog walkthrough that you do, and then also lastly is that one-on-one close. So every one of those are opportunities where you're in front of a host or in front of a group of customers that we call touch points that we're going to try to just explore a little bit and give them some tips and ideas in each one of those areas. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So start with your host and what you encourage her to do in terms of the 2 bookings.
Okay.
Or how you do that basically.
Yes. Yeah, so what I do, if you are blend bashing out there, you know that we have a simmering lot that comes with the blend bash. So what I do is take that simmering lot out of there, and then I also take a couple of simmering lots that I have on hand, and 2, 3. So, and I send a picture to my host before her party, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes it's the day of when I'm getting my stuff ready. And I'll say, hey, Wendy, which one of these do you like best? And she'll shoot me a text back and tell me which one she likes best. So I then take that to her party and set it up at the party with some little door prize bags that I have. And if we get those 2 bookings, the host then gets that simmering lot that she told me that she really wanted. So that is something that I do before, one of the touch points that I do before I even walk into the parties. Again, just setting yourself up for your goal there. Because if you wanted to do 3, if you needed 3 bookings, before then, you could do your 3 and then she gets that or whatever. So
you're specifically targeting that simmering lot. You're giving her a choice of 3, and it is if they get those 2 bookings at that party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Let's see, the opening. Anything else on the host side before we move on to that? Move on to the next one.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's kind of one of those things I do beforehand. And then kind of moving into our opening, to preface the opening, a few years ago, Connie did a training that completely changed my bookings for years and still to this day. So she was sharing with us about the 4 stages of acceptance, and it's about, accepting this new idea. And I can almost picture exactly like where we were and how we were sitting that day as this like light bulb goes off. So when somebody introduces a new idea to you, you have to go through these 4 stages. The first one is, of course, you're crazy, I'm not doing that, all the way to the very end and accepting this new idea. And so when in a blend bash, or at that time I was in different kind of parties, we have an hour or an hour and a half to walk people through those 4 stages. So you really want to start off your opening with some strong booking seeds so that you can move them through the process of accepting a new idea, because you and I both know that probably when they come in the door, they're not expecting or wanting to book a party with you. And don't assume that people know that you want them to book a party, because you will be surprised that people don't know that our business, unless you tell them that our business runs on these bookings and these parties.
Right.
So don't assume that people know that you want bookings. You have to be talking about it for sure. So now I'll talk about, or Connie, do you want to touch on the stages at all?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning part of it, and I use the example before of like, I paint my house a lot. Those of you that might know me, it's like rooms change colors a lot. So anyway, I might, come into my office and tell my husband that I'm going to repaint the office, and I just did it like, 8 months ago. So, his first reaction always is, oh, come on, no way. Then, maybe an hour later, it basically turns into, he phases into realizing I'm going to do it whether he says yes or not, quite honestly. But the reality of it is he starts accepting the idea that, yeah, I'm going to probably be pulling out the paintbrush and, going to the store to pick up paint. So he's in that acceptance stage where he's saying, I guess it's possible. Why not? A new color might be good for us. So, and then the next phase, of course, is that you are saying, I could actually do this. And so there are actually 4 stages. I think I missed one of them, but it starts when they walk in that door. I can tell you those customers are saying to themselves, I'm not booking one of these parties. I mean, so many people go through that, and they listen to your presentation and they start to warm up to you. And then they're like, maybe I could do it. By the time you're done with your presentation, they're in that stage of, I really like a lot of this stuff. It maybe a party would be a good idea. And then by the time they get to the one-on-one, or maybe during your blending time when you plant that other seed, they're saying, you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. So that's basically what it is. And I think your point of, you're moving them in that hour and a half to 2 hours from that first phase to that 4th phase is so important. And if you're not doing some of the things that you're suggesting, you're not going to move them through those stages. So awesome.
It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to start out my opening and just share a little bit about myself, but then I have booking seeds that are strategically placed in there. So I always thank my host and present her with the free accent shade that comes with the blend bash. So in that's a booking seed, because I always say when you host your own blend bash, you get a free accent shade. This is how my business runs. So thank you so much for great host, Wendy, and whatnot. So that's going to be a booking seed, because now you just mentioned that they get a free accent shade for booking a party. Then I go on and share some other things about myself and my family. And then I like to say, I like to use my own stats. So know your numbers, or just start with a company average if you are just getting started. start with the company average. So I always say this booking seat is towards the end of my opening. I'm like, my hosts get $140 on average. My hosts get $140 in free product and 5 half off items. So while we're going throughout the party, to not be thinking about hosting your own party. And again, this is in the first 3 to 4 minutes. I've already mentioned booking a party 2 times. I've mentioned booking a party before we've even got the evening started. So those are the little booking seeds that I say in my first opening. And by seeds, that I just mean little 1 and 2 line phrases that mention booking a party. So yours might be different than mine, but get those seeds in there and work them throughout your party.
So at this point, do you mention the simmering light thing? Because you kind of talked about, you held up your bags really quickly. So, okay, that's all right. I'm here to remind you.
So 3 times I have mentioned. Now, I do always point to these in my opening again and talk about these 2 party dates that I have, and that our host Wendy will get the simmering light that she really wants if we get these 2 dates booked for her. So yeah.
Okay. And I think that the great thing about that too is that you're looking at your calendar before you ever went to that party, and you're deciding, okay, I think you had the 3rd and the 15th, maybe something like that in October. The 15th and the 3rd, yeah. So those are the dates that you want to book. And I see you've got one is a Tuesday and one is a Thursday. So you kind of have some options for the day of the week for people as well.
Yes. So that way it's helping them that's helping them walk through that decision-making process, because they can already see, without looking at their phone or their planner or their calendar, they can already see, if that date, night of the week or whatever, will work for them.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that? I think about when I look at, like if I go to a store, or more like a vendor event kind of thing, where you're looking at people's products and there's no price on there, I don't always make an immediate buying decision because of that. And you don't always like to go up to somebody and ask, how much is that thing? But if there's a price there and it meets me, and she may ask me some questions and take me from a decision of, no, I'm not going to buy that, to, yeah, I'm going to buy it. But if I see a price there first, I am much more open to considering it. And I think the dates are kind of the same thing. So, and again, if you're someone that wants to control your calendar, be aware of when you want your bookings. I mean, you've got to, I remember Belinda Ellsworth years ago saying, never leave your home without having 2 dates that you want to book on your calendar in your head, because you might run into somebody at Target. You just never know. So anyway, I think that's awesome. Okay, while blending, what goes on there? So you transition to that blending phase.
Right. So whenever we're blending, this is the most fun part of the party, as you know, and I do demonstrate our products right before we start blending. I have a booking seat in there too. Whenever I'm changing out the shades and kind of demonstrating a simmering light, I'll tell them, I only bring a few shades to my party. So if you see a shade in the catalog, or you're interested in a different shade, if you book a party, I can probably bring that one. I might have it on hand so I can show it to you in person, because some of our photos don't do the shades justice, because they're so gorgeous. So I just shoot that little seed out there. The other thing that I like to do when we're blending is call someone out. So, as you're partying, you're getting to know your guests and things. So my last blend bash, I called this lady out. Tanya was her name. And I was like, Tanya, what is your favorite fragrance category? And she was like, I like the manly smells, like the cologne smells. And I'm like, we have a man cave blend bash. That would be perfect for you. So if you decided to host, it's got all the manly fragrances, and that type of thing. The other thing is just listening to people and what they say. A lot of times I'll hear 2 friends and they'll say, Connie would love this stuff. She's all about that, or she's always burning stuff. Every time we go in her house, she's got a big candle, or whatever. So just listen to those things and say, well, girls, if you book your own party, you can invite Connie and we'll get to show her all these fun things. And just planting those little seeds as people say things like that is important too. So.
Good. And I think one of the things you mentioned with the asking about their favorite fragrance category, and that person mentioned the man. Now, man cave's pretty easy to remember, but if you're a fairly new consultant and you don't necessarily know like all the fragrances that are in the individual blend bashes, utilize this great 2-page spread at the back of the catalog that's in there. And I personally would pull this out of here and put it into some plastic frames or laminate it something. So you've got this reference tool right there for you. And it's great for you to share with your guests as well, because it lists, of course, what the blend bash itself is, and then it's got all the fragrances that are included in that specific blend bash. So I just think this is really a great tool to share with people what the options are, and then for you to kind of learn if you're fairly new and you don't know all of the fragrances that come in those things. It'll be easier for you to transition somebody like that mentions what they like, if they like florals or, whatever it may be. So
yeah, with that, the sweet treats is an easy one to remember too, because people you know, a lot of people love sweet smells or food smells or whatever. So
Right.
I remember, Connie, you did a training a while back, a training call, and it was about people raising their hands.
Hmm.
Naturally, this just kind of happens at my parties, but it's another good booking seed to put in there. Like, who in here likes food fragrances? And you raise your hand first. Like, you
Absolutely.
raise your hand, and these people will start raising their hand.
Hmm.
And there's something like psychological about that kind of brings them like to your side or whatever. So then you can just throw in that other seed. Or even just say, you don't have to know all the themes. Just say we have 7 different themes to choose from. So I know there's something that we can fit for you for your fragrance category that you like.
Yeah. And I think when we get to the close, I don't want to forget to mention, but if you have this laminated or in a frame and you're sitting there with that guest one-on-one, I would just take that frame or those laminated sheets and just kind of slide it in front of them as you're starting to tally their order. Check these out. I mean, these are so awesome. So, you know, it's just a kind of a very, what's the word I'm looking for? What do I want to say? Like non-direct way of just kind of, putting that seed in front of them. So the other thing I want to make sure you mention, because you said you make a big deal out of, you know, when somebody actually books a party. So
yes. So I tell them whenever I drop that seed about anytime during the party, you can grab one of these. A lot of times while we're blending or whatever, somebody will grab one and say, I think I'm going to book one, you know, and it's so fun. So capitalize on that energy. I'm like, grab your prize, open it up, show us what you got, so we can like woohoo and holler, and they can see that they got a great prize. The other thing is, in these door prizes, it doesn't have to be anything crazy
simple.
expensive. I have Pink Zebra stuff on hand, so I'll use that. But if you're just getting started, the dollar store has cute stuff, adorable stuff. It does not have to be like, don't go spending a whole ton of money on just little door prizes. Just something to be fun and get excited.
You even mentioned like a Halloween or a Thanksgiving themed, you know, dish towel or something simple like that. But I mean, I think giving PZ stuff is awesome, but sometimes it's, you know, you can do something different.
Yeah.
Cute. Okay, cool. So let's move through the catalog walkthrough, because you do a catalog walkthrough. So kind of explain what happens there.
Yes. So whenever I walk through the catalog, I always go through and highlight what I've brought that evening to show them on the pages where it's at. And then on page 24, where the simmering lights start, I put an order form in there. So I have my catalogs set up before I leave the house. I have an order form in there and a recipe card from the Blend Bash. So if you've been blend bashing, you'll know we have those little recipe cards in there. I hand them out. We have them set at the Blend Bash, but I always end up leaving parties with 2
extras
or 3 people or whatever. So they're extras. So I just toss those in there so that it's another seed while we're walking through the catalog, and we get to that page and I'm like, who has a Blend Bash card in their catalog? And here we go again with the raise of the hand, because they're showing them, you know. So they'll show them to me and I'm like, okay, that is the Blend Bash that you have to have if you got that card. And then we giggle and we make a joke about it, because I'm like, I'm just kidding. I told you all you can choose whatever theme. That's just a card with recipe ideas. And sometimes you just never know, that card that you put in there will be the sweet treats for the girl who loves the food smells. But even if not, she might be thinking of some of her friends who like those. So again, just another touch point of, you know, booking a party in those fun themes that we have. Everybody loves a good theme. Like it's just so fun. Ladies Night Out has been really popular since this catalog change. And you have some Halloween ones coming up in September, and people just love to get around those themes. So really capitalize on that and drop those seeds with those. So that's what I do during the catalog walkthrough, to kind of drop that seed again. And then of course on that very last page, thank you, Pink Zebra, for the nice big images, this catalog with all those fragrances listed. It's nice and beautiful, easy for the people to see. So
absolutely, that's cool. Okay, and then what about if somebody's sitting there and you kind of do that whole like a lot thing? So how does that play in?
So also, I'm like, if you just love everything in this catalog, it's a perfect reason to book a party, because we can get you some items for free and for half off. The other thing is, when I'm walking through there, I'll point out a couple of the accent shades that come with the Blend Bash. And the skeleton comes with the Halloween Blend Bash, so I'll point to that on that page, and I'll be like, if you book a Halloween Blend Bash, then you'll get the skeleton accent shade for free. And now I'm saying all these seeds now that Connie and I are doing this training, I want to I want to mention Rachel Hollis in here for a second. So Rachel Hollis always says, I'm like a Rachel Hollis fangirl. I love her so much. So she says you can never talk about your thing too much. Like you have to keep talking about it. You have to keep talking about it. And that is so true whenever you're booking parties at your party. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. If you don't feel like at the end of your party, you have like got on these ladies' nerves because you said book a party so many times, you're not talking about it enough, then you're not talking about it enough. I promise you. So you're going to feel like you're saying it a lot. And that's what you need to feel like. When you feel that way, you're going to get some results and get those bookings. So don't feel like you can never talk about it too much. So the gold deco accent shade comes in the Ladies Night Out Blend Bash. So if I stop on that page, I'll mention that one. Mm-hmm. So just mention those accent shades as you go through that come with the various blend bashes. They're just wonderful.
And I think one of the things that's key about how you plant those seeds, when you talk about what Rachel said, is that you are not standing up there for 10 solid minutes and talking about booking a party. Right. What you're doing in your presentation is you're just planting those simple, like you said, 1 to 2 sentence seeds. So it's not a dissertation, it's not an orientation, it's not a speech about booking parties. It is just those simple seeds that are planted, but you're doing it multiple times because you're trying to, obviously, as we talked about earlier, move them through those 4 stages, and you're doing that by just planting that seed along the way. If you've ever gone on like a Facebook post, and it might be a direct seller blogger, direct selling blogger kind of person, or they're trying to sell you like a package, whether it's a training thing or a package of CDs or whatever, they will, in the message, they'll have, what it's all about, and then they'll have, buy it now, and then there might be some testimonials, and then it'll be buy it now again, and then you go down further and there's more information and it's buy it now. I mean, literally, I've looked through some of these things. There might be 7 little buy it now things that they're concept, that seed that they're, okay, at every moment, I'm going to grab that person. So it's kind of the same idea here. So anyway, that's it. That's my point. Okay.
Good point.
Okay. So now we get to the one-on-one close, and I know that your goal is to have pretty much those 2 bookings or at least one of them done before you ever get to that point. Mm-hmm. So if you're planting the seeds and doing some of the things that Jessica is suggesting, I think that's going to happen for you as well. And I really believe that the one-on-one is probably the most uncomfortable spot for some reason for our consultants, because you kind of feel like you're in this, I don't even know, like mode where you're worried about what you say, what are they going to say, how are they going to respond to me saying, are you interested, whatever. You just have to set that aside, because I think we have an incredible product. We've got a fun party experience. It's a great, time with friends, family, whoever it might be, and they're getting really well rewarded for it. So I think if you feel really confident and comfortable about what you have to offer that person, and you're not trying to sell them something, it just removes some of that anxiety that we sometimes feel. In most cases, it's in our head. So, but anyway, so talk a little bit about your one-on-one.
It's so true. And the way to get comfortable and confident, Connie, around that is to practice it. Like we all know that. You just have to practice it. So I think the main thing here, whenever you're getting ready to close, and say you don't have that booking, or maybe you don't have either of them, is keeping a conversation going by asking questions. Just keeping that conversation going is so important. So I always like to say, how do you feel about hosting a party whenever we're closing? Of course, I'll warm up. Connie, you said you worked outside of the home, or you said this, or you said you mentioned you had a couple of kiddos. So, I always kind of warm up. But then I'll say, how do you feel about booking a party? Please write that down. Like pause the video, something. How do you feel about booking a party? Please don't say, will you book a party? Will you help me? Are you going to book a party? Like just, get that out of your vocabulary.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about booking a party? Because then they have to talk to you about how they feel about having a party. They can't just say yes or no. So open-ended questions. Practice your questions, practice your booking seeds, that will just roll right off of your tongue. How do you feel about booking a party? That should just spew out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. And then listen to what they have to say. One of the most common objections that I get is, tell me about you're busy. So if you said to me and I said, oh my gosh, Jessica, I just have so many things going on. I don't know if I have time. I don't. Yes. So I always say, tell me about you're busy. Like, Tell me what's going on. And so that just lets them tell me what they have going on, because a lot of times what you'll find is people really aren't that busy.
They feel like they are.
Yes, they're really not. I mean, I've had people who will talk themselves all the way around to it, and they will say, on Tuesday nights, this literally just happened to me, y'all. Like, I have a booking on a Wednesday night, which is not normal for me, but it was a great lady and she was super fun and it's a whole new group of people. And so I was willing to make an adjustment for her, but I had to keep the conversation going. And she says, on Tuesday nights, we have this, on Thursday nights, we have football, Friday night, my so-and-so has this, and da, da, da. And she's like, could you do a Wednesday night? And so sometimes they'll just walk themselves all the way around it. Or sometimes they'll just say, well, on Monday nights, I have this. And so then you're like, oh, so you are free on Tuesdays. So it just depends. If you say, tell me about your busy, the conversation can go in so many ways. The other thing is, another example, I had a sweet lady, her name's Jennifer. And so she said, I'm thinking about booking that other date, but I'm really worried because we have this rental house. We just sold our home. We have this rental and like my floors are like, it's embarrassing. I don't want people in my house. And I was like, Jennifer, nobody's going to be worried about your floors. Like they're going to be looking at me and the sprinkles and having a good time. Like, and she's like, no, but it's kind of bad. And, and it really wasn't. But I was like, okay, note taken. She's really worried about her floors. Like this is a thing. And so I was like, do you have a friend or someone who would like to host with you, or you could borrow their house for the evening? And she's like, I thought about my mom. My mom would love this, and da, da, da. So my point in that story is that she had already thought that through. She had already thought it all the way through to, I could do this at my mom's house. But had I not asked the right questions and kept the conversation going, I wouldn't have walked away with that booking. Right. So again, just get comfortable asking some questions and keeping the conversation going. And something that Connie taught me is that, when you ask those questions, it'll give you time to think about your next question or gather yourself, process what they're saying, and just keep that conversation going. So yeah, that's kind of how I close people. Just ask. If you ask 10 people that are at your blend bash, how do you feel about hosting a party? I mean, it's going to be very unlikely that 2 people haven't really thought about it and come around to the idea. Right. If you're willing to close them,
Absolutely. And I think that's the one of the keys with blend bashes, of course, is that you are getting consistently 8 to 10 guests every time. So if you're doing a good job of pre-selling those bash boxes, that everybody, you kind of have this thing about that. And that is probably your greatest tool and greatest ally, because it's going to get people to that party. And if you get in front of those people, like you just said, on average, 2 of those 10 are going to book a party. And so it is an opportunity for you to keep that momentum in your business moving forward without you even really, it's not that hard. This is not rocket science. I mean, not at all. So
all the time, I'm like, I'm not lucky and I'm not magical. You just do your seeds and you do your things. Don't skip any steps, and it'll come. If you're getting out there, keeping conversations going and closing people, it'll happen.
Yeah, and I mentioned before, I hear Krista Clay say that she's got that big thing with her Facebook events that she does. Just don't skip the steps, and you just mentioned that, and that is so important, because if you are laying all that groundwork and doing those seeds during the presentation, what you do at this point in the one-on-one, if you don't have those parties booked, is going to be a lot easier. So, and I believe that the one-on-one is probably the most important, and to me, I think the most fun time, because that's where I do get to connect with a guest. I heard you have 4 kids, Jessica. Like, how do you manage that? That's so incredible. And I would bet you're probably somebody that needs a ladies' night out. So, I mean, it's just a way to segue into that opportunity that, is there a chance that you could get your husband to take those kids out to McDonald's and let's do a party? I mean, it becomes a very friendly kind of thing, instead of you feeling like you're trying to sell them on an idea that they're just like, forget it, not going to happen. So, sure. And if people do get that, sometimes you probably do find people are really busy. This is a really busy season in their life. So don't be afraid to say, if all of that, if your calendar was a little bit clearer, are you open to that idea? And if they are, do you mind if I just follow up with you maybe next month or in October when, your schedule slows down a little bit, or when does it slow down so I can reconnect with you? So it gives you an opportunity to keep that communication going. So
so true. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Connie, because that does happen quite a bit. And so like what I do in that case, because it does happen, people are like, I really want to book a party with you. Like I really do, but we have this and this and this and this. And so I'll ask them like, what month are you thinking? So I immediately go home. I write a star on top of their order form. I immediately go home. I have the Belinda Ellsworth. And on the left side, it says week 1, week 2, week 3, or whatever. Yeah. Flip to that month. And at the very top, I'll follow up Susan Melhart, a customer that I have on my calendar in September who I met in January.
Right.
After my son gets married in the summer. So I followed up with her and we have a booking. So, write those things down in your catalog and take notes, or in your catalog, in your planner, take
Mm-hmm.
notes, things like that, because it's so true. If you stay consistent and do follow up with those people, and do those booking seeds, and they are in a busy season, they'll likely follow through with what they said they would
Absolutely.
do. You follow through with what you said you would do.
Exactly right. And that's part of our job. We are in sales. And so you have to ask for the sale. And then if that opportunity, time isn't, or the time is not opportune, then you've got to come back at them. I mean, that's just the way we do what we do. So, okay, so we're going to close. I appreciate you and all your expertise in sharing with everybody here to help them hopefully work through these challenges they might be feeling. But we wanted to issue a couple challenges with this. And one was, whatever parties you have coming up, Blend Bashers, we hope, but whatever parties you do have coming up, that you are going to hopefully take some of these things that you've heard today and become very intentional and focused on booking 2 parties at the next number of parties that you do. And if you are sitting with a very empty calendar, which would be kind of crazy given the fact that we're coming into September, which is such a crazy busy time of year, and people are in that buying mode. And, we didn't really talk about the catalog and the whole Hobby Lobby thing. So, we'll talk about that in a second with the second challenge, because I want you to mention that. But so our challenge to you at this point is do something different, plant or really make some intention and focus around these seeds that we've been talking about, and book 2 parties at the next number of parties that you do. And I can tell you your business is going to obviously be changed, no question. So the second challenge has to do with this catalog. So what did you share about this earlier?
So we want you to get this catalog in front of 10 people. Okay. Mm-hmm. So
in the next 7 days.
7 days. Okay. So get the catalog in front of 10 people. So I wanted to share a story about I have a manager on my team. Her name is Jennifer Armstrong, and she has a customer who's been buying from her maybe once a month or once every month. And she's been saying, you need to do a party, like you spend so much money, every so often. So why don't you just do a party, and we'll get some of these items for you for free and half off. And she said this fall catalog in front of her. Customer brings it back and said, okay, I'm ready to book. I want like all the things. And so with that, we're just in that time of year where everybody, the Hobby Lobby memes, the pumpkin spice memes, all of that on social media, everywhere you go, you run into your girlfriends and they're talking about Hobby Lobby, and they're talking about their mantle, what they're doing on their mantle. This is like our time of year. We can be like a mobile Hobby Lobby. If you put your calendar and our products in front of people, they're just going to purchase it. It's that time of year. It's like a sweet spot for us. So why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that and get this catalog in front of people, because they're ready to buy. They are ready. If they don't spend money with you, they're going to spend it at Hobby Lobby or Walmart or wherever. So,
So it's funny, we talk about gift buying this time of year because people are obviously starting that, but really the decorating part of it for the seasons that we have coming up are the most exciting. So, when you think about decorating for fall, there's nothing to be said other than it's fun. I mean, it is. The colors are awesome. There's so many different ideas. We've got so many great things in this catalog beyond what anybody else might want to do. And then, of course, the next month we've got Thanksgiving, and the month after that we've got Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate that time of year. So it is beyond gift giving. The decorating part of it is so important. So again, we're going to recap those challenges to book 2 parties at the next number of parties you have lined up in your calendar. And if your calendar is blank, you better book something for the first part of September, because you could be like Jessica and book from those couple of bookings in that first part of September and be well on your way to just having a really productive fall. And then the second part is to literally get this catalog into 10 people's hands in the next 7 days. So basically, whatever that day is, whenever you listen to this, 7 days from that day to get 10 catalogs out to people. There's your phone. That must mean we got to wrap up. So anything else you want to add before we say this is done?
One more thing. Have fun. Have fun with your parties. One thing that you have something that nobody else on this planet can bring to your business, and that is you. So just have fun. Whatever your kind of fun is, whatever you are known for or like to do, lean into that. Do that at your parties. I have girls on my team who play games. I'm not a game player. I don't play games at my parties, but they do, and that's how they have fun. So have fun, be you, and you'll get some great bookings from that too. Just
awesome. Very true. Very true. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Hope this was helpful. And Jessica, again, thanks for sharing with us today. Okay. Awesome. All right. Bye, guys. Here we go.